All right, here we go. Back at it. This is going to be part 2 of our carb and intake. So I know this is kind of dragging out a little bit, and I didn't want to do one big long video. I may combine them, post them together at a future date. But for now, this is part 2. So you may or may not have seen us do the valve cover gasket and adjust the valves, but we've done that at this point. We are at the assembly part of this process. We've taken a bunch of stuff off. If you weren't here for the first part, and sorry for the helicopter noise, but it's hot in Florida and I got a fan. So this is all of the bucket of stuff that came off the truck. Now we're ready to start putting stuff back on the truck. As you can see, this is really wide open over here. There's all kind of room for activities there. We got rid of the whole intake thing that goes across the top of the motor. The little canister filter thingamajig, not even the filter, it was like a baffle that sat right here. Got rid of the shield that's over the exhaust. Yeah, all that stuff's gone. Air injection, everything. So now we're ready to start putting stuff back on. And first of all, I'm hot and I'm hungry because I've been doing other stuff, and I'm gonna go with something pretty easy. So the first thing we got to do is the air injection delete. So we pulled the pipes off. Now we got to put the pipes back on. We got this from LCE or LC Engineering. There's your, I don't know, that's the part number on the bag. It comes with these blank off plates right here that fit perfectly right back on those same spots. With new gaskets, you reuse the nuts that are on the end holes here and here, or reuse your stud if it comes out instead of the nut. But then there's a hole in the middle right here. There is a hole on the block. You can see right there in the middle between those two big holes. So that is threaded as well. I've already checked it, but they send you the bolts. So there you go. So basically we're going to get our 14 mil socket and slap this stuff together, and I'll show you when I'm done with that. But it's pretty simple. You just put this thing on there, make sure you do it the right direction. Should be self-explanatory. So that's that. I'll go ahead and get that on and then show you the finished product. All right, folks, there you go. That's back in. So you just just clean the surface a little bit, which I pulled the old gasket off. There was a little bit of paper residue basically, so I sprayed some degreaser, got a little wire brush, clean those off, put the new gasket, just tighten it all back down. So air injection deleted. Okay, next thing we're going to work on is covering that up. That's where the EGR valve used to be, so it's not going to be there no more. In order to fix that problem, that came as part of our master install kit deal. So there you go, that's that. I guess the numbers are upside down, but regardless. Or no, they were right side up. Not bad, but that's that. Issue I have is you can see a stud stayed in there. So I'm gonna have to work on getting that out so that I can use these bolts that come with the kit to put this thing in. Plus we're gonna put a little RTV and all that. So let me clean the surface, let me work on getting that stud out, and we'll go from there. Okay, I left you with putting the EGR valve on, or a blank off plate, but I was thinking I was gonna have to use some RTV, but then I said, wait, I should really look at my parts that I have. So this comes in this this pack right here. This is a new intake gasket, but if you notice, look at there, EGR. So it looks perforated like you could cut it, but I'm not going to because it's kind of close right there, and I'm just gonna put it all together. So that's why I stopped with my plan of putting the EGR block off plate on there, and just went ahead and worked on cleaning this all off, getting those other two studs out, stud out of the EGR there. So everything's ready to go. We got all new studs for the new intake. Just it was part of an install kit that came with all these plates and everything. So I'm going to use the new ones. But that said, just worked on prepping that stuff and getting it all ready to go. So let me I'll work on things like getting the new studs in, stuff like that, and then we'll move forward. But that's why the EGR block-off plate's not there yet. However, I'm gonna go get some lunch right now. All right, folks, we're back from late lunch. Got a little baseball going here. See how the home team's doing. Look at that. Got them another run. Anyhow, next step I'm gonna do is grab my pipe cutter here, and we're gonna cut this pipe, hopefully. So I'm gonna cut it right in this area, as close as I can to this bend, but you know, with my tool I got there, but cut it about right here. And that should give me the clearance I need so we can run some of this radiator hose that we grabbed and try to get this done. I think, like I talked about before, we got this fitting. This goes into the bottom of here and all that. So saw this on another video too, so that gives me a little bit of comfort. But we're gonna go ahead and cut this, and then yeah. Anyway, next step. Here we go. All right, folks, success. I was able to just use that, which you don't know how to use that. It's not that hard. You just stick it on there and you just spin it around, tighten it, spin it around, tighten it. But made a pretty nice clean cut right there. So that's all done, and that should work. Now this, we'll go over here in the rest of the bucket, because I guess worst case, if I needed that to go back to original, I could just splice it together with a piece of rubber hose and call it good. But anyway, that's that. So I think I will go ahead and put that in back in the other hose, clamp that off, leave it. I will not do that yet. That'll leave this empty. I wish I had a way to like flare it or do something, put an end on it like that, but I don't have that kind of tool, and I don't know how good that would work anyway. What I'm going to count on is this is kind of textured, so I'm hoping between the hose and the clamp and the grip of that, it won't leak. But if that is a leaking problem, then we'll address that later. But we're going to keep moving forward and put the rest of this thing together. Okay, so what I did was went ahead and attached that side of the hose back on, or the pipe back onto the hose on this side where it goes. And then from there, over here, you can see there's the pipe sticking out. And so then we can stick a radiator hose on that and come up to the intake manifold. And then I also, it's kind of hard to see, but right back in there, I got the bolt started that holds this thing. So it's, you know, it won't come, it'll wiggle a lot still, but it won't come all the way out. So that's where we are there. And now I'm going to put the studs in for the intake manifold. All right, quick update. We're getting the studs in, some like finger tightening pretty much all the way. Other ones, like say that one, they start, but then they kind of get stuck. Other ones, anyway. So I'll use the old double nut method here. These are just some nuts from the old stuff that I pulled out of one of the bags of parts in the bucket. And anyway, we're just using the old, you know, the wrench and the socket thing, and just driving them all in. Don't force anything, but get them started by hand and then finish them up that way to get them tight all the way in. So I'm gonna do that, get them all done. All right, folks, don't get too excited. It's not on for the final time or anything. I was just doing a test fit to make sure it went on there. It does. It's kind of snug, but it goes. And that's it. That's what it's going to look like. You'll kind of have all this room under here. There's really nothing else. Sorry for the twisting you there a little bit, but anyway, that's it. There's our pipe that's coming, so I think the pipe's in a good spot. So just wanted to give it a test fit, but now we're going to move on to getting the gasket and everything on here and see what we can get going. All right, moving along here. Went ahead and put the gasket on. You see that fits up really good, and then went to the EGR there. So no cutting, no nothing, just came as part of the gasket set. Put that in, nice LCE on there. So now I'm going to put in the blank off plate for that, which I have over here, which is this sucker right here. So just reuse the bolts that held the other thing in. It didn't give me any new ones. So we're gonna go ahead and put this in next. Okay, so that went in super fast. Takes me as long to film this as it does put some of this stuff in. Next thing we'll do is put the blank off plate on that right there. And I don't have a new gasket for that, but I left the old gasket on there. Again, that's what we're gonna do. I've got some RTV. I'm gonna think on it a second and see if we want to do that. I don't know, we'll see. All right, so that one's in. You just use the original bolts. The plate is threaded. I did scrape the gasket stuff off. I couldn't tell if the gasket actually went underneath like the water pump itself and then out to that too. Hard to say, but anyway, I cleaned it all off. I used a little gray RTV. And yeah, so that's done. Might have got too much RTV into something, but better to have too much and too little. Anyway, that'll set up nicely before we put any fluid back in this thing. So now I'm going to move on to the bottom of this. So we got to put this plate on here. So I got to get the gasket in the right place, which that wasn't it. There we go. Got to get the gasket in the right place. They gave us these bolts, plate, and then there's a little nub. So I want to work on putting all this together so we can get it on the truck. All right, folks, here we go. I got that on there. They sent some instructions saying, you know, to put that plate on, because sometimes the screw holes don't line up perfectly and all that, but you might have to cleanse the hole. Didn't need to do that. I put this on. I did put some Teflon tape on it, twisted it around. Just, you know, used a wrench, like an open-end wrench. I used a 19 mil, but it was a little big. Anyhow, that's all set, ready to go. Everything's on the truck over here, ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that thing on and get some bolts on it and stuff, get it snugged up a little bit, and then we'll figure out how big of a piece of radiator hose we need. Okay, this is on now. All the nuts are on, finger tight. Here's a little gotcha. Don't tighten it down all the way. In fact, you're gonna have to like pull this away because you gotta sneak a nut between here and the end of the stud. So I had to back it off that much to get it past there. But once you've done that, then you can push it back up there. But if it's all the way flush, you can't do that. Now, all the other ones, no impedances there, so that works. So now, yeah, I'm gonna get myself up under here and see how big of a piece of hose we need to go from that gold 90 over to that pipe in the background. So we gotta figure that out, and then we'll cut our pipe, or our hose, I mean, get that on there, and then we can move on. All right, folks, we've got that on, and then underneath here, see that's connected. I just angled that thing over towards the other side. That's all connected up. Now I just got to tighten that bolt on the back of the motor that holds the that pipe, and then I'll start tightening up the manifold. And that's it, other than like moving on to the carb and some things like that. But I'll have the manifold on, so let me get those two things done, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, everybody, that's on there. So we got everything tight. Got the hose clamps, all that stuff. Yeah, all the bolts are pretty easy to get to, except for that little sucker right there. And so go ahead and get your open-headed wrench and go around for like 15 minutes, it seems like. But yeah, that's all. It's all put together now. So let me get out the instructions that they gave us with the carb, and see what we can do with that. Also, got to go ahead and put that piece right there. That's like a vacuum thing, so we'll put that on. And we got to order and pick up a thermostat because we need a new one of those. Probably get a new temp sensor. I'll get on the computer and order that stuff, get it sent to our local O'Reilly's, and yeah, I think that should be it. All right, so I went and stole a couple bolts. I think those were like one of the air injection box brackets, whatever, I don't know. Anyway, I stole those. There's still a hole right there. I'll figure out what to do with that, but that is put together on top of that. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and work on the carb. If you see over here, we got this, came in the kit, some adapter plate things, some instructions, bolts, all that crap. I am pretty positive we don't need none of that junk. What we need is this carb, this plate, and this set of studs and nuts and stuff. So it's not super clear, but that's what makes sense. So that's what I'm going to do, because we're not going on to the stock manifold, which might have a different size. I don't know, I'd have to dig it out of the bucket, but this is made for the Weber, so it bolts right on. So we just got this spacer plate and we should be all set. So I'm going to put these studs in and we'll go from that point on. All right, so moving along, we got these in. They screwed in with the short threaded section down. Figured that's the way it was supposed to go. Not 1000% sure. Anyhow, those are in. So now we'll go ahead and start assembling this stuff here. I say that, but I don't want you to sit here and watch me struggle. But I'll go ahead and work on getting these down. That plate, then another one, and then the carb. Show you what that looks like. All right, so that's on. It's tight. Everything's good to go with that part. I think I'm pretty close to calling it a day, because we're getting up in the morning going fishing, so we might have to go eat, hydrate. I've been sweating all day, but yeah, so we got to that part. There it is. That's the manifold. That's the carb. All that's on there. Now we just got to start putting in, plugging some of these holes we're not using. Work on getting the throttle hooked up, some of that kind of stuff. I grabbed, this is part of the throttle mechanism, the stock stuff. I got to see what else we need to do to make it all work. So we'll get to working on that stuff. But yeah, I think I'm going to call it a night for tonight and get back at it probably next weekend, or a weeknight or something like that. But that's it for today, and we'll come back. All right, I just couldn't leave. I'm going to stick it out for one more thing. So I went ahead and stuck this throttle mechanism. That's straight off the old one, off the stock one anyway. It's two pieces. They go together. I did have that little tab right there in the middle of the screen. I had to bend it up because it does hit the manifold, but no big issue. Anyway, that's all together, and then you come here and you realize that what came on the carb doesn't reach, doesn't work right. So thankfully they sent this piece. So this is a different piece. You can see it's got the hole there with the right shape. The stock throttle mechanism fits in these holes. So I'm going to change that piece out for this piece. So I went ahead and busted that nut right there loose. There's a little tab you got to bend back. Bust that loose. It's a 12 mil. So then I'll pull this piece off and change it out for the piece in my hand here. And hopefully that means we'll have the throttle connected. So wish me luck. All right, so after this I am going upstairs. Got the cotton mouth, I'm hungry, tired, and thirsty. So that's on there. Just make sure you loosen up all three of those bolts so everything can wiggle, and then you'll get it in there, all that kind of good stuff, and it'll be ready to go. So there you go, that's all set. I did have to adjust this. I moved this a little bit to put some tension on this so that it's still not super tight. We'll adjust it some more once we get to that point, but that's that. You know, I do have a little more adjustment to make it tight, and we'll go from there. But yeah, that's that's it for now. I'm gonna stick something in that hole so it doesn't attract some kind of critter to live in there. And yeah, that's it. So stick with us. It might be a few days for me, but it'll be a second or two, and we'll be right back with you for you. All right, everybody, like I said, it was a few seconds for you, but it's the next weekend for me. We got the Rays baseball game on here, and we're moving on. We had some parts show up for us. These came from O'Reilly's. Pretty simple. They had them not in the store by us, but the next day. So what we got is a temperature gauge sending unit. So that's that. Yeah, there's that part number. Hopefully that's right. This is a new thermostat. We went with the 190 on that. So there's what we got for that one. And then I went ahead, since we're doing thermostat coolant stuff, I got a new radiator cap. It's like, I don't know, $10 or something like that. And then I found they had this, which is a gasket set. So everything that came with the new intake manifold had these things, which I don't know that I need that adapter, but still, that was only one side. And then this bolts right up to the new intake manifolds, which is, you know, came off the old one. So I went ahead and got some of these gaskets, so we can use these gaskets to seal that back up. So just, again, that was like, I think 15 bucks. Now over here, this is our old thermostat. We're not reusing that. It's just old. But we had to steal another couple things off of here. One of them was right here. That is the temperature sensor that was right there. That is this green one. Now if you look down in there, you can see it's just a one connector, and it goes to this, where did it go? This thing here, which is a one connector. So from what I can tell online, I'll say they sell one at O'Reilly's, but it's a two connector, and it's square, not round, or rectangular, not round. That's cheap, like 15 bucks, 20 bucks, maybe something like that. This particular round one, where I could find it online for a round single connector like this, was $195. That was at Yoda Shop, I think. So yeah, we're just gonna transfer this one in and hope it works. This is the old temperature gauge sending unit. And that's what we're gonna replace because it was cheap and we could get a new one, so we're gonna do that. That was actually mounted here on the old intake manifold. So for reference, that's the top of it. And so it was down over here on the side. And then that connects to this. So those are your two connectors that have to come up here, up to the top. So we'll get those in. But yeah, that's where we're at on that. You can see I put the air filter on, so I just wanted to kind of see how that was gonna look. And then we got another couple parts from LC Engineering that will get put on, but these are two air breathers that will replace that and the PCV. So both of those will go away and be replaced by those filters. So let me get to work on doing a few things here, and I'll give you an update on what I got finished. All right, so I went ahead and put this in. It does have, I put some Teflon tape, but then also this has a rubber O-ring there on the end. So I just make sure you grease that up so it doesn't grab. This I put here, we'll see how that goes. Seems like it kind of bottomed out. It's the same kind of hole as that one. So I may need to move it all the way back over to there. So we'll see, I'll look at that. I also figured out why they sent this. It has nothing to do with like an adapter to change the size. What it has to do with is the thermostat hits the bottom down there, and so it won't bottom out like it's supposed to. So that's why that's there. So we'll go ahead and work on getting that installed. I think I'll try moving that that temperature sensor, the green one, to back over there, so it has all the room it wants to go down. I don't know. We'll look at it some more. Okay, we looked at things. I checked for this green sensor right here, and it's in that kind of hole, and that's the kind of hole it was in. You know, with that little ledge on it. Those don't have that ledge, but it was in that kind with the ledge on the old intake. So we're gonna leave that for there, and then we'll see where it goes. Now, when it comes to the thermostat, like I said, the bottom was hitting, and so we thought we were gonna have to use this, which came from LCE with the intake manifold installation kit and stuff like that. However, it just wasn't fitting very well. Didn't like how it was fitting. So out of the other gasket set I got from O'Reilly's, which was this Velcro set, it came with this little rubber O-ring, and it fits in that hole perfect. Then you can set that on there. It does not hit on the bottom, so that gave it just the clearance it needed. And then this is one of the gaskets that was in that Velcro kit too. You can see we had to notch out for the screw holes just a little bit, but it fits good. We'll be able to get the screws in, so that goes there. And then we can, then we got this, and we can put this in right on top, cinch all that up, and then we'll have our thermostat in. So we're gonna go ahead and get that buttoned down. But that's what we had to do, because the way this other, this kit, just with the rubber and stuff, like the big thick rubber one, if you put that in that hole, then it pushed the thermostat up too high, and you had metal trying to seal on the metal thermostat, and that didn't work. If you try to use the spacer, we couldn't figure out a good way to use that either, because the thermostat doesn't recess down in the hole, and so then you end up with thermostat basically acting as a spacer between the flat surfaces, and it just wasn't going to seal up good, we didn't think. So this is what we worked out. So I guess we'll see if it works when we get it all put back together and get some pressure on the system, but that's where we're at now. So we're gonna get that bolted down and then move on to putting something else on. All right, everybody. So we bolted this on, so that's that. Now, I went ahead and used some Teflon tape, used all the plugs that came in the master install kit for this manifold from LCE, and plugged up those holes. All that stuff's good. That one, I don't have the right Allen key for it. I think it's a 9mm. So the sets that I have go 8 to 10. Nothing has a 9, because the 8's too small and the 10's too big. So I'm guessing that. And then you got to put those two in down there. I don't remember what size they were, but I had the right Allen key for that in one of my Allen key sets, because it's smaller and decent. This one's just too big for like your normal little Allen sets. And then you know, the kits that are, or the sets that I had of the ones that go on like your 3/8 ratchet and stuff, and even my 1/2 mil, whatever, but they are 1/2 inch, but that didn't work. Anyway, that stuff's all there. I gotta find a 9mm Allen key so I can tighten that one down. This is on here. We bought this from LCE as well. There's a you have to there's a little adapter that you put on, and then you Allen key that thing in the little adapter, and then you put the filter on, and there's a hose clamp, and you clamp that down. So that replaces that, since we don't have the vacuum and stuff for that anymore. Now we've moved on to trying to look at the fuel system. So I went ahead and hooked the hard fuel lines back up. So you can see those there for the one that comes from the tank, and then the return. Just hook those back up. There's nothing holding it, so I mean, we may change those out to fully rubber lines, but they don't really, I mean, they just kind of sit there, they don't touch nothing. So for now, we're going to do that, and we'll just see how that works out for us in the long run. Then that brings us to, in this kit, that Weber only needs like, I don't know, 2 to 3 psi of fuel pressure, and apparently the pump puts out way more than that, so you have to regulate it. And that's this regulator here, which you can get from LCE as well. And we decided that we were going to, first of all, we found out that our fuse box has a broken leg, and somebody put a metal one in there. But then we're going to use the bolt right there. Had to add an extra washer and stuff, but it's in here and it's tight. So that's there. Now we got to run fuel hose from here over to here, because that's the in, and then this is the out that will then come over here. I'm also going to have to switch this from this side to this side. So I just have to take that bolt out and take this out, do the old swapper there, and then we'll be all set to run our hose, our fuel line from here to there. In that portion of the line, we have to put this gauge so we can tell when we've set the pressure to the right, 2 to 3 psi. That's done by putting this little piece into the line. This screws in so you can set the pressure. Then when you're done setting the pressure, you take that out and you put that little piece in, little threaded piece, and it plugs up this hole, and you're all set until you need to check it again. Or you can build yourself get a whole nother piece of fuel line and just take that whole piece out, all of that out, and just run fuel line because you've already set your pressure. So I don't know, we may do that. We're just gonna go buy some fuel line and work on running that. And I think we're getting really close to the end at that point. We just got to do the air filter, that's easy. And then the PCV right here. So hose has got to go to the PCV down to that thing. So I think that's where we're at. Fuel hoses, set the pressure, which we'll talk about when we get to that point, which you got to take that, it's that nut right there on the top of that you got to do to set the pressure. Yeah, air filter, just some other tweaks, but I think that's basically it. Fuel line, PCV line, and then we got to figure out the choke. So we'll get to that, but fuel line is what we're focused on right now. Okay, we've been working on a few things, going back and forth. I ran this one vacuum line. Our kit came with that little block off right there, because you don't have to run the secondary line supposedly, but that's the primary vacuum line. Just ran it around here and plugged it into the one vacuum opening on this card. Switched that around, so now the fuel goes in on the left side, not the right side. And then as we were doing our research and stuff, and my son caught it, but we also needed a brake booster, which you follow this up, you can go over and see that goes in the brake booster, and that gives you your vacuum for your brake booster. So we had to steal this nipple thing off of the original intake. Goes in that hole right there perfectly, and then because this is where this plugged in before, so then we'll plug that in, push it on there the rest of the way, and that'll be our vacuum for our brake booster. Still got to plug that hole, need that like 9mm Allen or whatever. I'm gonna go to the store and try to find that, buy some more fuel hose, because what we got is one piece and it ain't long enough. Went ahead and plugged that in. That's your temperature gauge sending unit, and plug that in. That's another temperature sensor for some purpose. So yeah, that's where we're at. So trip to the store, Allen wrench, fuel hose. I think that's it. Oh, I gotta find another block off little rubber piece for something else. But
this thing that goes in the bottom of the,
yeah, that goes in the bottom of the air filter. So we need to block it off because we don't have anything to put on it. So
hopefully we don't.
Anyhow, there we go. So off to the store. All right, I made it back from the store. I gotta finish putting this on. I know I said I was gonna do that, but I'll get that on. what I did do is get that thing right there, that black plug put in. That is a 9mm Allen. I didn't have one, so while I was at the store, I bought one. Got that put in. Now, the next thing I did for the choke on the carb, which is right there. We got the one, the electric choke, not the manual. So what we did was cut this pigtail off of the old, what's that thing? Carburetor, yeah. That wire, the red one, which you can see coming out of here, is the one that goes to the choke. The other ones went to other crap on that Asian carb. I don't know what they do. Don't need them here. So I bought these little butt-in connector things there. So they're like, they just block it off. So we cut those, blocked those off, zip tied them up, got them out of the way. This one, went ahead and put the little slide connector thing there, which slides right on that thing. So I'm gonna plug that in, get that hooked up. I bought myself a couple feet of fuel hose to go with the piece that we had, so I can plumb the fuel and get that all set, ready to go. We got our PCV hooked up. Got that thing on the front. Fuel lines are hooked up except for the ones I need. I think we're looking pretty good. Once I get this done, we do have to remember to put coolant in it, and then we should be ready to fire it. Which I grabbed a couple more things of coolant there, so that should be plenty since we didn't drain the block on this one when we drained it this time. So yeah, I think that's it. So let me work on these last couple things, and I'll show you the fuel plumbing and all that, and then we'll be ready to try to set the fuel pressure. Okay, everybody, back with you. Did a little bit of stuff here. So I finished putting that on. That's your brake booster. I plugged in this. So right here is where that wire or the connector is for the carb. You can see I routed this wire up around here to help hold it out of the way. Plugged it in here to the electric choke. So that's that. Let's see, ran the fuel lines. So from here, goes around here, up underneath, goes right back there, comes around, goes into the inside of this thing. And then you got fuel line coming on the outside, or not the outside of it, but where the fuel goes out. That comes around right there, goes to this gauge, which is that piece right there, right? So that is in the middle there. Gauge is set up so we can check our fuel pressure, and then up there. I don't have any clips on this because what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the fuel pressure on this pressure regulator. Then I'm going to put just a clean piece of hose that goes from here over to there, so I don't have that little connector in the middle. I'll keep this piece so we can always switch out if we need to recheck it or something like that. But that way, like, you don't keep that in anyway. You take the gauge out and put a little plug in there, is the way they say to do it, but fuel hose is not that expensive, so I'm just going to do a section where I can, you know, if I need to, I can swap the hose out and retest the pressure. But basically, once you get this thing set, I think it should be pretty good. So I'm just going to go that way. Less connections, less leaks, all that kind of stuff. So I think I got everything put back together except the coolant. So I'm going to put that in and then give her a crank. All right, everybody, obviously we got it running. I'm kind of yelling because it's loud, but we're sitting here about 1,500 RPM. We adjusted the choke screw. May have to adjust it a little more, but it's running. We're just going to fiddle with it a little bit, do some adjustments, but no leaks that we found so far, and it's running. So let us play with the carb, and then we'll get back with you. All right, everybody, we messed around with it. I figured out what I did, but here we go. First time ever we have heard this truck under about 1,200, 1,300 RPM.
So quiet.
So it is really quiet. The valves were adjusted, so There's no clicking or anything. I figured out what I did wrong. When I switched this out, I over-tightened that bolt right there, and it was kind of binding up the mechanism in the car. And so that was what was causing my problem. Plus, I had adjusted the cable based off of that thing being bound up, and that was my problem. Don't worry about that. That's just WD-40 wiggling right there. But so here we go. This thing is, I mean, it is idling at perfect speed right now. So yeah, we're gonna call this job done for now. Finish putting stuff back together. But it's literally just means all we gotta do is put the filter on that. So that's the last thing. So yeah, that's it. We'll check the timing since we finally were able to get this thing down to a point where we can actually check, and it's, look at that, it's on 0, top dead center. So I guess we don't need to check the timing. We'll look it up and see if it's supposed to be something different, but it's running good. So we're gonna call this one a success. You have to come back to see what else we do to this thing.